connection. It was nice to experience that.
Oh, are we recording, Lynn?
We are, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So, my name is Susan Michel.
It was
I
nice
am
to
here
experience.
in Western Massachusetts. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity, based on the principles of A Course in Miracles. And my beautiful friend and soul sister, Myrna Skoller, is in Boca Raton, Florida. She is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus from A Course in Miracles, along with 5 other books. This particular book goes hand in hand with the Course in Miracles workbook, which I love, love, love. How are you, Myrna?
Great. Really, really nice after coming off a Christmas holiday endeavor with my daughter and son-in-law. I mean, it was lovely. It really was. I flew to Connecticut. The flying on Christmas Day, which was really very easy. I guess nobody else is flying on Christmas Day. Coming home 3 days later, however, was a little bit more trying. It was a matter of just going with the flow. That's what it was. The airport was crowded. It was a small airport, and it was delayed. And on top of that, you're not going to believe this. My son-in-law. I have to tell you this. Told me, why don't you wear your boots? Because it's cold in Connecticut. I said, no, no, I'll just wear my sandals on the plane. I said, I'm going to Florida. He says, it's cold on the plane. About 3 or 4 times he told me not to wear sandals. Anyway, I'm on the plane and wearing sandals as he told me not to, and I decided that's what I wanted. Turns out the little boy in the row in front of me got sick and he vomited all over my feet. So, while I was wearing sandals. Okay. I mean, you have to laugh at it, but it was. And my seatmate, the guy next to me, I mean, he went ballistic. He was controlled after a while. The waitress, the flight attendant came over and brought us wipes, and paper towels. Anyway, it was okay.
Ah,
Anyway, so that was part of the fun coming home. But all in all, I would do it again because I enjoyed it so much.
wow, what a crazy story. I guess you gotta laugh. I don't know if I would laugh if I was in your seat with the sandals on, but yeah, what a story. Wow.
I had my feet stretched out, he vomited, and there my feet were right there. And I guess it must have found its way under the seat to my feet. But anyway, it was an experience. Anyway, yeah. But
I
today
used to,
we're
I used to fly a lot, and I would always have plane stories. Some of them good, some of them not so good. I do miss traveling. I think traveling is exciting. So
traveling is nice
anyway,
once you get there, when you get there, but the
yeah.
traveling itself is not a pleasant experience, really. I mean, it's not that you don't make it unpleasant. I mean, you have to do the best you can. But from being a traveler, really, I used to travel an awful lot. I see a difference in the service, in the just the traveling experience has gotten a little more difficult. Yeah.
Hmm. I hear ya. Well, I am going to start as usual with the introduction of my book to get our juices flowing. What I write in my book, Surrender to Joy, is my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with 3 simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. And the reason there is nothing to find in the world is because there is no world. It's about finding that connection to source energy first and going into the world to extend that love to our brother. I have experienced a few miracles when I think back upon my week. I had this experience a few days ago where I felt that I was connected to source energy. I felt like I was plugged into my God socket, as I say it. And I went into a local discount grocery store called Price Rate. And for whatever the reason, I was plugged into my God socket. So I was making small talk with people and employees. And then when I was checking out, there was, I believe she was a high school student. You know, she was a young girl. And we just started talking back and forth. And she gave me a compliment. She said I was perky. You know, she says, "You're very perky. Why are you so happy?" She says to me. And I thought about it and I said, well, I don't really know. I said, I guess I just feel like I'm connected. I said, the interesting thing about that question is if something happens in life and you're happy because of an event, well, then the happiness is temporary. However, if you're just happy because you're plugged into your God socket, you know, well, then nothing can take away that sense of joy. And she made me realize that joy is our natural state. You know, when we're not joyful, it's because we're blocking our natural state. Our natural state is one of joy. And that's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us. A Course in Miracles says it cannot teach you the meaning of love, because love is the essence of who you are. It can only teach you to identify blocks. So when blocks come up, you can choose to release them. And it's something that I do my best to remember as often as possible, that joy is my natural state. And you, my dear Myrna, are one of the most joyful people I know. It's just a natural state for you lately, right? Am I right?
I've learned the difference between joy and the opposite of joy, which is fear, opposite of love, which is fear. Joy falls under the umbrella of love, and I am concentrating on trying to stay in that place. When I fall off of it, like you say, you know, we experience the blocks to love's presence. When I recognize that I'm falling off you know, the aspect of love's grace, and I'm going into a place that is not particularly comfortable. Uh, you know, being able to recognize it and coming back into the realm of peace. And that's really what it's all about. I really think that. I think we have to know the difference. And through the path of learning, of spiritual endeavor, I think we begin to understand the where we want to be, where it's most beneficial, because that's what we experience the miracles. And then we get into miracles, which is really a very intriguing part of my life, because everything I see now that goes my way, I identify as a miracle, everything. And I see a lot of that. Very little doesn't go my way, if anything. When I say my way, what do I ask for? I ask for God's guidance in everything, in just about everything. And that's all we need to do, really. You mentioned today is the last lesson. Today's December 30th, right? And the last lesson is 365. And I love that lesson, really, because I know when I first picked up the Course in Miracles in the 1990s and I read through it, I read through the lessons and came to this one. It was such a nice way. It really wasn't a way of saying goodbye because in a way, I was kind of sad that the miracles had come to an end. And I remember thinking, well, how do I stay in the state that this Course in Miracles puts me in? How do I stay there? I finished the lessons, and I remember thinking, well, I'll start the lessons all over again. And of course, that's one way. But another way is to recognize that He is there. He is Jesus, who I connect with, is the partner that I will spend the rest of my life with in that respect. And this tells me, this holding instant, what I give to you, be you in charge, for I would follow you, certain that your direction gives me peace. And this is what I'm really trying to embody, that, I would follow you now that I know you. And look what he says right here, this paragraph. I love it. And if I need a word to help me, he will give it to me. If I need a thought, that will he also give. And if I need but stillness and a tranquil open mind, these are gifts I will receive of him. He is in charge by my request, and he will hear and answer me because he speaks for God and my Father and his Holy Son. I mean, what that covers every angle, everything, and it's true. When I need a thought, speaking to you, when I need an idea, it's given me, and I don't even think about what I'm going to say. I just rely on now what I'm being told and trying to be a conduit for him.
It is. It's a beautiful lesson. This is lesson 361 to 365. It's the same lessons for the last 5 days of the workbook. And it's about complete and total surrender to God. And it's just so incredibly beautiful. It's really about embodying the essence of love and releasing the need for words or direction and just connecting to the truth of who we are. I had a really powerful meditation this morning, and I think what meditation does for me is it calms my mind. So I'm releasing any kind of egoic distractions, which we constantly get caught up during the day. It's interesting how our mind starts to wander. And with meditation, what you do is when your mind starts to wander, you just bring it back to center, and when your mind is clear of distractions, egoic distractions, you can hear the voice of God, because God is always talking to us, but for us to hear what he's guiding us to do, we need to release our fear. Because when we are fearful in any way, we're just blocking the flow. We're blocking the flow of life. So I think meditation kind of sets us up for a day of connecting to the flow. And when I'm able to do it, it just feels so good. And that's what life is supposed to be like. Life is supposed to feel good, because when we're feeling good, we're connected to the truth of who we are. And then right after lesson 365, there is an epilogue which we discussed briefly pre-call. It is so beautiful. It's telling us that we are never alone. There's always angels around us guiding us. That's why it's important just to release any fear so we can hear what our guides are telling us. It says here in the first paragraph of the epilogue, this course is a beginning, not an end. Your friend with a capital F goes with you. You are not alone. No one who calls on him can call in vain. Whatever troubles you, be certain that he has the answer and will gladly give it to you if you simply turn to him and ask it of him. He will not withhold all answers that you need for anything that seems to trouble you. He knows the way to solve all problems and resolve all doubts. His certainty is yours. You need but ask it of him, and it will be given you. So, what is important to remember? It's important to remember to ask God, ask Christ to guide us, because here on this earth we have free will, and he is always waiting for us to release our life to him. But I don't think that he can jump in and take over unless we ask. So it's like the Bible says, whatever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive, but we need to ask Christ for his guidance, and that's just something very important to remember, because he's always there, but we need to ask him. Like I remember when you were writing your book, you just released your mind to Jesus, and you allowed Jesus to channel his words through you, but you had to ask for him to come in, right, Myrna? I remember the story of when you wrote your private lessons with Jesus book. That's like so beautiful what you told me about the writing or the scribing process for that book.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that, because yes, you kind of understood what I was feeling, I think, when I was writing the book. The lessons that I was given to write about, I just read the title of every lesson and then jumped into what I was experiencing from the title of that lesson. And that was the most uplifting thing for me, because I all I know is that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that aspect of writing, because I wasn't doing it alone. I felt like I had a collaborator with me, and it was really wonderful. And yes, just as this very last lesson tells us that, if I need a thought, that he will also give. So we just have to ask, and we'll be given everything we need. And once we can rely on that, and that's a letting go process, which sometimes takes a very long time. And, it can be done in an instant, because that's what the holy instant is, really, when we recognize it at that moment, and we just let it, we understand it all that the course is trying to teach us. And once we have that moment, that's all it takes. It's really extraordinary. But for most of us, I would say, if not almost all of us, we need time. We need time to get that, to embody it, to feel it, to experience it, and then to live it. And every time I see a miracle, anything that goes well, anything that I see that comes my way, that I really I can step back and appreciate the miracle behind it. And, like the Course in Miracles tells us, of ourselves, we can do nothing. Of ourselves, we really are, we're babes in the woods. And we do need God's help, and we do need that direction. But once we begin to rely on it, know it's there, it's a very comforting feeling. And I can, I've spoken about miracles that I have that come about all the time. I love to kind of take a look at it and recognize that this is a miracle. Whether it was saving me from making a huge mistake, whether it was uh, saving me from going through an experience that I would have suffered terribly with, where God stepped in and kept that from happening, and it just illuminates my heart when those things happen, because I realize that the love that is behind it. It doesn't just happen because you know uh, at random. It happens because there's love that is that I feel that is coming from a very holy place. And it's really wonderful to be. It's wonderful to be. I think in the here and now, right now. I think probably this is also the best time of my life because of all that I'm seeing and all that I'm experiencing, and seeing it as a gift rather than something that I begrudge. That doesn't really happen anymore, right, Susan? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of that paragraph in the Course in Miracles, and I don't remember exactly where it is. I was trying to find it, but it says we've read it before here. Why would you want to fly with the wings of a sparrow when the power of an eagle
Yeah,
is being
I know
given to you?
exactly where that
Remember that
is.
paragraph? Oh, yeah. If you
Yeah,
can find it, please read it because
I
that's
know
what
where
this.
it is. I'm sure it's in the teacher's manual under
Okay.
trust. Under
Under
trust. That's what I.
trust. Oh, perfect. Right. So we're trusting. What is trust? To rely upon spirit totally.
I'll
And
find it.
it talks about the different characteristics of God's teachers. And yeah, I think you're right. Ooh, you're absolutely right. I found
I,
it thanks to your guidance. What are the characteristic of God's teachers? The first characteristic is trust. And then it starts out, this is the foundation on which their ability to fulfill their function rests. Because, like, when what happens when we trust in our higher power, our whole energetic frequency changes to one of peace, love, joy, and happiness. And because projection makes perception, because we're always creating our own experience, when we can lift our energy up, calm our mind, we're always going to experience beauty because we're coming from a place of joy. And then that paragraph that you found for me says, well, I'll start in the beginning of the paragraph here. When this power has once been experienced, it is impossible to trust one's own petty strength again. Who would attempt to fly with the tiny wings of a sparrow when the mighty power of an eagle has been given him? So beautiful when you can really
yeah,
digest that sentence. It is so beautiful. And who would place his faith in the shabby offerings of the ego when the gifts of God are laid before him? And then the last sentence asks, what is it that induces them to make the shift? Like it's about shifting from ego gratification, which is so short-lived, to connecting with source energy, because God wants us to live our best life. God wants us to be all that we can be. When we're connected to source energy, we're basically connected to our greatness, which is not of us. That is of God. And we all have access to it whenever we're willing to surrender to it, whenever we're willing to release our ego, whenever we're willing to release our fear. We have access to connect to God's greatness. And there's no sacrifice involved at all. I mean, the only thing we need to sacrifice is ego gratification. But ego gratification can't bring us joy, not really. So all we need to do is release our fear and allow our will with a small w to connect to his will with a capital W. And what we need to understand too, that God's will for me is the same as my will for myself. You know, it's just a consistent surrender. It is a mental discipline. You know, it's a mental discipline about focusing on light, focusing on love. It's just, I'm thinking back to my day in general. It's like we're constantly I'm constantly tempted to, I don't know, I guess just criticize myself, or criticize my brother, judge myself, or judge my brother. It's like that temptation is always there. But Course in Miracles is saying no. The ego can never make you happy. There's no need to criticize yourself. There's no need to criticize your brother. There's no need to fear. It's like there's different affirmations I can say to myself to allow myself to live just aligned with Christ, live on the vertical axis. It's different affirmations that I can say. Like it's accepting the moment. What if everything is just perfect right here, right now, accepting the moment exactly as it is, trusting that God has my back, trusting that life is unfolding in exactly the way that it is supposed to unfold, not resisting the circumstances, just living in the moment, and A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do that. A Course in Miracles is teaching us to just depend upon him and love, love myself and love my brother. That's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. I actually attended John Mundy's service yesterday, which was really beautiful, because he's such an empowering, amazing Course in Miracles teacher. I believe he's one of the only people alive that knew Helen Schuckman. And he spoke about a lot of really interesting topics. One topic that he spoke about was the incredible difference that meditation on a regular basis can make. It's all about mind training to just stay fully present in the moment.
Wow, that was great, Susan. Yeah. That's what it's all about, learning to stay in the moment. Look at all we go through to learn to stay in the moment. I mean, you read the first paragraph of trust. When we started to talk about the wings of a sparrow, the tiny wings of a sparrow as compared to the mighty wings of an eagle. And why do we choose the lesser when we have the other at our doorstep? We have it at our disposal. And looking back, here it is. The next paragraph is development of trust. First, they must go through what might be called a period of undoing. This need not be painful, but it usually is so experienced. And yes, it need not be painful, but it's so it is experienced, even though it's not painful, because I remember my own, going back to my own learning, when I was beginning with the Course in Miracles as a rookie, as a new student, uh, feeling, because you're beginning to doubt the ego, and the ego doesn't put up with that easily. The ego will fight for its survival. So you begin to think, well, if you're giving up the ego, you're sacrificing, you're giving something up that's valuable. So it really takes time to see that the ego is really not valuable, as we think it is. Yes, we rely on it, but not to be so attached to it, is what the trick is, really, because of course we need our bodies to survive in the world, but we don't have to use the body to be of the world. We can now, understand that, it's the mind that controls everything. And if our mind is healed and it's healthy, and it's recognizing, how it needs to become connected with all our brothers and sisters, which the Course also puts a lot of strength into. We have to connect with our brothers and sisters who share with us the same consciousness. We share it all, and we think that we're separate. But when we recognize that we're not separate, that we really have the commonality of consciousness, that really is just love. And we begin to experience that. We begin to see that nothing is really being taken away, that we're only given what is valuable. But it's amazing how we have to undo everything, all the damage and all the mishaps that we've created through the years. We needed something like the Course in Miracles to teach us uh, how to get out of the pain. And why did I discover the Course in Miracles? Well, I was searching for something. I know that's why I was so open to it. So I think when we pick up something and read it and it resonates, we realize that we're ready for it. We're ready for this change. We know we're looking for something. But until we really see what that something is, it has to be experienced. And once we experience the joy of God and the joy of holiness, wrapped into the beauty of love, that's really what it is. Once we realize that, you can never go back again. You may falter a little bit, take a couple of steps backwards, but you always take 3 steps forward. And I speak for myself, and I assume that it's the same with other Course in Miracles students. And it's not only the Course in Miracles that really paves the way. It's also, there are so many teachings that guide us to the path home. Right, Susan?
That is right. I mean, we are all part of the same essence. When you get deep into me and we get deep into you, we are the same. God has but one son, and we are all part of that sonship, with Jesus being our brother. He is further along than the vast majority of us. However, he is our brother, and everything that he has done, we have the power to do and more. The difference between Jesus and us is not that we have everything that Jesus has. The difference between him and us is he has nothing that does not come from God. Most of us still do. We still have pain points, fear, blocks that we're in the process of releasing. So, I was listening to a podcast with Marianne Williamson and a host whom I cannot recall his name. The host was not a Course in Miracles student. I believe he was studying the Kabbalah. I mean, there are so many clear paths to God. A Course in Miracles claims to be one clear path to God, but it doesn't claim to be the only clear path to God. So this one host was learning about a course. He was in the process of studying Kabbalah, but he was talking about a dream where he came in contact with the Buddha, and he looked at the Buddha. No, the Buddha looked at him and he said, "Why are you not smiling?" And the host thought about it and he wasn't sure. And then he looked at the Buddha and he said to the Buddha, "Why are you laughing?" And the Buddha replied, "Why aren't you?" I thought that was a really great point. He looked at the Buddha, he says, "Why are you laughing?" And the Buddha said, "Why aren't you?" Meaning, that when we are joyful, when we are laughing, when we are smiling, we are in our natural state. That is the essence of who we are. The separation, I mean, the core of Buddhism teaches the same core of A Course in Miracles. The separation occurred when the Son of God forgot to laugh. So I believe we are born laughing. I think I read somewhere that Bill Thetford, the co-scribe of A Course in Miracles, at the end of his life, he did so many forgiveness practices throughout his life, and he died in his late 60s. I know he died at a younger age, but I read somewhere that he was laughing. He was laughing and then he died. But he died in a state of laughter. I mean, it's just important to remember that joy is our natural state. Sometimes we get so caught up in the dynamics of the ego, and we want people to validate our position. We even had a pre-call, to be completely transparent, where I wanted validation from you and you gave it to me because you're so wonderful and kind and beautiful. However, that's not my natural state. My natural state is not one of complaining. My natural state is one of acceptance and joy, and that's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. It starts out, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Nothing unreal exists. So if somebody pressed my buttons, if somebody triggered me, well, I don't have to get caught up in the pain. All I need to do is pray to God and release it. Because I did get triggered over Christmas a little. I did, but it was something in me that had not been healed. And I knew it. I knew it, although I was caught up in the trigger, and then what I did is I prayed. I got down. I really did. I got triggered over Christmas for a day. And I was so triggered, but I knew it was not of God. And what I did is I went to sleep, and then the next morning I prayed. I got down on my knees and I prayed, and I said, and it doesn't matter if I was right, it doesn't matter, who was right, who was wrong, it doesn't matter. But I prayed to release the fear. I prayed to release the trigger, and Christ answered my prayer. He took my pain from me, and I got back into my right state of mind. And I don't think I completely finished the story, because the next day after I released the fear, we really had a great day. We did. We played some box games. We played a game of Family Feud, and it was so much fun. I completely released the trigger. So again, that's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. It's not, would you rather be right, or would you rather be happy? Would you rather love, or would you place your faith in fear and the ego? Like, the truth is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. The answer is always love. It doesn't matter what they do. All we need to do is love, and the fear is released, right, Myrna?
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Triggers are not good, are they? Because especially if we hang on to them. But it's true. When you said you prayed and it was released, that fear or whatever was, causing your discomfort was released. And I think about how in the middle of the night, I can wake up feeling this feeling of terror. I mean, and this has been going on for years. I wake up in the middle of the night, but I've learned that all I have to do is just ask Jesus to get me out of this feeling and help me go back to sleep. And it always works. I feel the terror of what I want. What is it that caused me to wake up with this? I don't know, whether it be a dream, whether it be something that happened, but it's not uncommon for me to experience that. But what's very, very common is that it's released. If I just ask for that pain to be released, I'll recite an affirmation or something from the Course in Miracles or the Lord's Prayer, which I know by heart, or something. And I concentrate on that, and I feel that feeling of fear just dissipate, just dissolve, just melt away. And I always fall back to sleep. I'm always half asleep anyway when I wake up with that. I'm never fully awake. It's always sort of, I'm in sort of la la land. But and that's what I consider a miracle. The miracle is when we can be released from our fear, and all we need to do is ask for it. And we think it's something separate coming, from a separate source, but it's coming up from a connected source. That's why it works, because whatever love that I'm sort of reaching out to is answering me, only wants my comfort and gives it to me. It's a wonderful way to understand that we don't have to suffer, never have to suffer, if we're just willing to give up what caused us suffering. But then, sometimes we consider it sacrifice because we're so attached to the egoic thought system that is not easily being sent away. It's just not going to be easily discarded. But we give it its place. Its place, yes, is in my life, but not of my life. I'm going to read the very last lesson from my own book. And I want to read that because this was a very special lesson for me. It was the last lesson. I had worked with Jesus on this 365 days. This was the 365th day. And I'll read it. The holy instant is the moment when we decide to set aside the past and bring truth into the present. It is the reversal of thought from fear to peace and from hate to love. Give God your unwavering faith, for salvation is now certain. Your struggles on this earth are no more. And the peace you are feeling elevates you to an awareness of self-love. You are seeing another world, one which feels different from the old, where once you lived under clouds of unrest and confusion. You are seeing a world shifting out of the old as it moves into the new. It is a place where the strength of peace overshadows fear. God welcomes you to the origins of your creation, which is to love and be loved. Be joyous and peaceful the rest of your days. You have come to a place which reveals your true identity. You know this is so, for you are feeling a newness of freedom as never before. Follow me where I lead you. You have come to know me as your brother, the one who will come for you personally when your body is laid aside, and you come to join me in your final resting place, blessed with eternal peace. Interesting. The sentence really was special for me. I remember reading about the death of Helen Schickman when she was dying, and it was somebody, I don't know who it was, whether it was Ken Wapnick or whatever. I read this, that what gave her comfort is that Jesus told her that he would come for her personally. So, and I was so touched by that. And I remember thinking, well, I hope he comes to me personally. So maybe that's where this came from. I was so illuminated by that, and this came into this lesson, this paragraph, and it really was something that I found very special. Anyway, so I give it back to you, Susan. What do you think about all this stuff that's going on? Triggers, non-triggers, peace, love, joy, fear.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What a beautiful lesson you read from your book. I love
Yeah.
that. I really love that. Gosh, you said so much. You initially started speaking about sacrifice, which is a big word in my vocabulary because I grew up believing that Jesus Christ sacrificed his life because I was bad. That's what traditional religion teaches. That's actually a topic that came up over the weekend as well, or not the weekend, the Christmas holiday as well. My friend has more of a traditional interpretation of Christianity. So she believes sacrifice is of God. And in my mind, that makes no sense. I believe that sacrifice is not of God. Sacrifice is of the ego. The only thing that Course in Miracles says that we have to sacrifice is our small self, our egoic self. But that's not a sacrifice at all, because what we receive is the greatness of God. Like, we sacrifice the needs of our lower self, but we don't want that stuff anyway, because it's all fear-based. So A Course in Miracles says there is no sacrifice. Sacrifice is not of God. Like, when I sacrifice, I'm coming from my ego. My ego tells me to sacrifice, but my higher self never wants me to sacrifice anything at all. You know, the whole crucifixion of Jesus, the Course in Miracles tells us not to focus on the crucifixion. The whole lesson has to do with the resurrection. The whole lesson has to do with evil has no power over us. Fear has no power over us. You know, the people that crucified, that appeared to be crucifying Jesus, the body of Jesus, it had no pure power over him because he rose from the dead. So A Course in Miracles is telling us that the only thing that's important about the crucifixion is the resurrection. And Jesus Christ did not die because I was bad, because my sins in reality never occurred. They were just mistakes, and they were forgiven the moment that they happened. God doesn't remember any of my mistakes. He just knows my beauty and my divinity and my beauty and my glory. And the only thing that I do is I don't need to be forgiven for anything. God has never condemned me. The only person that I'm accountable to is myself. All I need to do is forgive myself. So sacrifice is really is meaningless. It's not of God. And if I find myself acting sacrificial in any way, I'm getting caught up in the dynamics of the ego. I have the glossary of terms here by Robert Perry. And what he writes about sacrifice is the act of voluntarily losing something in order to gain something else for the sake of a deity, for the sake of another person or some worthy cause. And then he writes, sacrifice is totally unknown to God, for he only gives without cost and knows nothing of loss. So God is never, ever asking me to sacrifice anything. That's such an amazingly beautiful and empowering thought. you know um it says here in numeral 3 in my glossary of terms, just exactly what I just said. It is the ego, not God, that demands sacrifice. None of its pleasures come without the price of pain. It asks us to sacrifice totality to keep a little treasure for ourselves. Yet this treasure is only loss, loneliness, and fear. Thus, the ego asks total, not partial sacrifice. The real meaning of sacrifice, then, is the cost of believing in illusions. And I mean, it's such it's like the opposite. A Course in Miracles is teaching me the opposite of what I learned as a child. The Course in Miracles is teaching me that I don't need to atone for anything. I don't need to sacrifice anything. I don't need to make amends for anything. All I need to do is to forgive myself, release my guilt, and open my heart to accept God's love. That's all I have to do. If I made a mistake in the past, it doesn't matter because there is no past. All I need to do is accept God's love here and now. Open my heart to accept God's love here and now. It's like, and that came up to me up for me too in my meditation this morning. If I can just, like, God wants to love me totally and completely and unconditionally. And he can't do that when I'm holding on to guilt of any kind. So what he is asking me to do, and what A Course in Miracles is teaching me to do, is to release any guilt. A Course in Miracles is teaching me to forgive myself and forgive my brother, because when I'm holding on to guilt of any kind, I'm not able to allow God's love to come into my heart. It's a mental thing that in order to really feel the truth and the beauty and the love that's available to me, I need to release the guilt. I need to forgive myself. So you can't hang on to sins. You can't see yourself as a sinner. You can't see your brother as a sinner and know how much God loves you at the same time. It's impossible. You just have to forgive. Why do I want to forgive? Because it feels good. There's no other reason. Does my brother benefit? Maybe Maybe he does. If I forgive him, maybe he benefits, but that's not the reason that I'm forgiving. I'm forgiving because that's the only way I can feel the unconditional love of God. And when I allow God to love me, then I'm able to become a conduit. Then I'm able to become a miracle worker. Then I'm able to love my brother. And that's what God wants me to do. That's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do, is to be a conduit for miracles. And it's so beautiful when we allow that to happen. And it's our natural state, you know? It's our natural state. God is laughing, and we can, when we can just allow ourselves to laugh and open up to joy, then we can become the miracle worker that we were born to be. We can be a conduit for God's divine love, right, Myrna?
Yes. Yeah. And you said something, you talked about forgiveness. And I'm thinking, the Jewish holidays, the Jewish New Year's is all about forgiveness. This is when we all go to temple, and we ask God for forgiveness, and know that our past sins have been forgiven. We just know that whatever we can, whatever we perceive our sins to be, it's a year. We're starting new. We're starting fresh. A new world. Recognizing there's nothing to feel guilty about because we've been forgiven. And that's what this holiday is all about. And I always find so much peace in that. I really do, because, everybody's in good spirits. People are loving. People are genuine at that, the people that you're bumping into in that particular, arena. And everybody wants to be forgiven. Everybody wants to forgive. We just don't always know how to forgive. And you just hope that you're going to go on to the following year and uphold what you were committed to, during this holiday season. And every year it's basically the same thing. And I guess maybe if we can look at ourselves pleasingly, recognizing that we are in that frame of consciousness, being not holding on to any grievance, letting it go. Everybody wants to be loved, and people, each individual has to really work it out on their own terms. We can't change anybody. We can only change ourselves. And so I really I like that. I love the idea of forgiveness, because your brother does, when you forgive and truly forgive, then the person that you are forgiving doesn't feel that uh, connection of just, of being of discord between you and the person that you had this with, and I recently experienced that. In fact, this weekend, truthfully, I can tell you quickly. It's almost time, but I went to a person's house to pay a condolence call, an old friend. I had lost touch with that person over the last 3 years, and it was really over, believe it or not, over the COVID thing. I wasn't vaccinated, and there was a little bit of uh, a rift between us as a result of it. Anyway, her husband died, and after not speaking to her for 3 years, he invited me to the funeral. I couldn't go to the funeral because I was in Connecticut with my daughter, but I did go to the house. They call it sitting shiva. That's the Jewish term for paying a condolence call. And what I recognized, what was so wonderful, is that because I had a history with this person, it was incredible seeing her kids that remembered me, that welcomed me. So many people from the past that I hadn't seen were there, and it was like old home week again. It was wonderful. It really was. And then I realized we should always keep. I guess maybe for me anyway, to keep it attached to those that I have a history with, because it never dies. When there's a history there, it comes alive again. When you face it, as I did over that gathering, it was wonderful. Anyway, so I just wanted to bring that up.
That's
Okay.
beautiful. That's beautiful. I know, it's just to let go of whatever caused the disruption in your friendship is so empowering, because if it's negative, it's an illusion. You know, if
Right.
it's fear-based, it never really happened. You just erase the mistake, and that's a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
That's a beautiful story. And that's a miracle, that's a
It really
miracle.
was. Yeah. It was very, very nice. And I saw my friend Irene, and Irene has Alzheimer's actually. But she was so happy to see me. She was so happy, I mean, genuinely, that I know that I'm just going to take Irene to lunch because I loved, I shared years of friendship with her. And even so, she knew enough to remember me and recognize that we were friends, and she was very, very happy. She kept telling me how great I look and how happy she was to see me. And it was wonderful. We all enjoyed that get together once again. I wish it was under better circumstances. Her husband died, my friend's husband passed away, but anyway. But it gave me the ability now to recognize I'm going to stay with her, you know.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So it is now 4 o'clock, and I loved our time together. I definitely feel more plugged into my God socket. So thank you so much for being here with me. I love you
Love you.
so much. And as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is the love. And it's just so important to remember that, and so beautiful. So thank you so much. And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Thank you so much, Susan and Myrna. What a beautiful sharing, and I'm so grateful